Oh my God. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Estate Uncensored. We're going to have an awesome conversation. Matt Faircloth is here, and we're going to talk about everything from what he's seeing in financial markets, capitalism, politics, maybe not from that angle, but just how does it affect people that are looking to build wealth, and whether you're invested in real estate, whether you're invested in crypto, whether you're just curious about how those things might affect the real estate space. This is going to be a fun, wide-ranging episode. I really don't know exactly what we're going to cover. We're just going to crack open Matt's head, and we're going to scoop out as much of the goodness as possible. But before we get to him, we've got the junior grandmaster, Greg McDaniel, in the co-pilot seat, where you so belong. Greg, what's up today?
I certainly deserve to be here. And sorry, I just stabbed myself with my pen, so I got distracted for half a second. But yeah, I'm super excited to have Matt on. Our pre-show conversation was absolutely incredible. A lot of laughter, but some really good stuff. His book, his company, mindset, crypto, real estate, investing. I mean, it's just like I'm taking notes as fast as I can possibly write. But I'm really excited to have you here. But first, Matt, before we bring you in, I have to introduce the sexiest man on God's green earth. That is Mr. Gene Volpe, the evil bald ninja. What's up, buddy?
I like it. Thank God we're recording this. I'm going to play this back for the wife tonight, my man. Oh, yeah.
That's your Greg's intro? Deep, sultry voice. Just have that on a loop in the bedroom.
That's exactly right.
I want you to meet Mr. Gene Volpe, Mr. Evil Bald Ninja, the sexiest man on earth.
I'm gonna have you record my voicemail if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
All right, making stuff happen today. All right, Matt Faircloth, officially welcome to the show.
I'm so pumped to be here, man. I had such a great pre-recording combo with you guys. It's one of those conversations like, man, can we just like say all that again when the mics are on?
Yes, true.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's an honor to be here. Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, so let's get a quick plug because people can hear more from you on your own show. So just give us a quick mention of the podcast.
Sure. So I have a show called the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Guys Show, where we go and talk shop about health and wealth and the merger thereof. Because as you guys know, life is not just your wallet. It's not just how you do on the treadmill. It's not how you do in the gym. It's not just how you eat. It's all things like Cuba Gooding Jr. and Jerry Maguire. It's the Quan, it's all of it. It's all of it tied together. So the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Guys show talks about all those things. We mostly interview medical professionals or people that have some sort of a financial independence hack and have you leveraged it to do something physical or vice versa. So we've had all kinds of different folks on the show, nurses and doctors, and a guy that wrote a book called The Vaccine Book, talk about vaccines in the US. Interviewing bodybuilders and those kind of folks that have been able to do what they do because of real estate investing. So it's been a really great journey.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So give us like the 60-second overview. How did you get to where you are now? We know that you're a multifamily investor, but kind of fill in some of the details for the listeners.
Yeah, man. So I quit my job in 2005 when my girlfriend at the time put the Little Purple Book in my hand from Robert Kiyosaki and just blew my mind. And I was a traveling sales rep at the time. And I was like, I don't like this whole traveling sales thing. And this just isn't really doing it for me anyway. So when we got married, I quit my day job working as the sales rep and went to invest full time, inspired by Rich Dad Poor Dad, and slowly built our business over time. Got through the downturn. We've always had a passion for residential real estate and for residential landlording, and I've just grown into that space over and over and over again. I really like not to get too sappy, but I love what real estate does for people, and I love that real estate, residential real estate, provides housing, and I like that I can really get involved in the full spectrum of people, like, income, walks of life, everything, that I can make an impact on their lives across the board through residential housing. And so I've done, startup, small onesie twosie housing, lower income kind of stuff in Trenton. I've done bougie high end stuff. I enjoy all of it on the housing side. And so we've slowly grown into that space. And thanks to my book, and thanks for what we've done through YouTube and putting a microphone in front of ourselves and broadcasting more of what we're passionate about, more and more passive investors have found us and become excited about what we do. And that's enabled us to take that vision into larger and larger projects. So we are now active in 4 states, and done all kinds of projects from fix and flips. But now our main thing is apartment buildings. Over the last, say, 6 years, it's really been where we've really planted our flag, because we find that we can make the most difference and carry forward our mission in multifamily housing.
Matt, where are you buying predominantly?
North Carolina and Kentucky. We own a few in central Pennsylvania, like out in Lancaster. Actually, for Eugene, like those you call it, you like me call it Lancaster, because we're from around the area.
Yep.
But for Matt and Greg, they would call it Lancaster, like say all the syllables. But if you're from Pennsylvania, you just put it into one syllable. So that's there.
Are you discriminating against us, sir?
I am.
feel that you might be.
Yeah, because you don't say it like we do, But it's funny, like anybody from a certain part of the world says the name of their town like no one else does, Yeah, it's you got to say it that way. We don't say it like that. We say it like this, right? So anyway, that's how they say it in Lancaster. And then we're from, we also do work in Lexington, Kentucky, and Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Do you ever do any work in Texas?
I've not. I've been there a lot, but there's a lot of other syndicators that are doing work in Texas, and I find it to be a huge state that's about as crowded as it gets when it comes to investing. And so we tend to let that state be run by all the other, like my good friend Joe Fairless and other people. Let them buy up Texas. That's for them, not for me.
Okay, interesting. I was gonna make you a connection so you can make some money, but I'll keep that.
Oh, no,
myself now.
I'm not a fan of money at all. No.
Oh, I hate money.
I'd love to talk to him. Yeah, all joking aside, there's a lot of good things happening there, and sometimes I have FOMO when I look at what's going on in Texas.
No problem. I'll connect you with one of the biggest investors out there, along with the biggest financier that he works with. I think they finance over 87% of all the deals in multifamily in Texas.
That sounds like a good connection.
Yeah. And
so there we go.
Matt Johnson, this is where we're going to end the interview. Our guest,
Matt, guys. Good
has
show.
had a
great
opportunity.
Mic up and drop it. I'm going to pick up my little snowball mic and drop it down. That's it.
All right. So Matt, take us back a little bit in the early days. Did you try, like you kind of settled into residential and multifamily and stuff? Did you throw a bunch of stuff against the wall to see what sticks? Did you try a whole bunch of stuff until you narrowed it down?
Man.
Too much?
I threw like buckets of spaghetti at the wall, and it was like I really should have stayed in my lane. I'm sitting here in Trenton, New Jersey, in an office building that I own, a 10,000 square foot office building. I did that whole shtick telling y'all how I was a residential landlord, but I also in a 10,000 square foot office building because it seemed like a good idea at the time, and that. So we've dabbled in a lot of things that let's not do that. And I think it's important when you first get started to try different lanes of real estate, see where your passions are in that. But we've always gravitated back to residential housing. Residential landlording has been where we've always done our best. Even fix and flips, I've done well with that, but landlording's always done me right, even through the downturn and everything like that. That's really been where our core is, and where really my biggest passion is residential landlording.
So tell me a little bit about what's the relationship building in that world like. So like our audience is on the residential side a lot, but they're running into investors, they're running into people that they're listing their house and they also own multifamily. Like there's plenty of people that kind of dabble in both.
Yep.
I'm curious, what is the prospecting process like for you in terms of finding the next relationships that's going to make your next $1 million? What does that look like for you? And is there any differences in certain niches in real estate that you've noticed where, the relationship building process over here, super different than anything else?
It's different. It's funny. In my world is two different places. It's finding deals, which like a realtor could translate that to finding listings or whatever it is. And then there is, putting what we do out to make investors aware of what we do. They're aware, hey, look, I can passively invest and don't have to deal with any of the bullshit that I have to deal with now as a hands-on landlord, right? So Matt will deal with the bullshit for me, right? So there's two different avatars and two different ways to attack those markets. So for the finding deals, I find that it's good for us to stay centered and like just ground in. So we're not in, you guys would ask me what markets you in. I wasn't like, oh, okay, we're in these four. I own that apartment building over here, that over here. No, we have like 600 units in Lexington, Kentucky, and like 500 in North Carolina, right? So we have just those two markets and a handful in New Jersey, and I'm trying to sell what I have, Gene, in Trenton as soon as I can. So unloading New Jersey as fast as possible. But staying focused is what in a market, and becoming known as the buyer or the realtor or the whatever you are in that market is what's done the world of difference for us. And we're getting a lot of off the market transactions now because we have the discipline to stay focused in a market. And the investor side is a whole different angle.
So I want to ask a question real quick, just to kind of get behind the scenes here. Why those two areas? Like, tell me what happened there? What years did that start? And what was the thought process behind it? Somebody came to you and went, "Hey, Matt, my cousin lives there. It's great. Rents are high." Like, what's the thought process? Why those two areas?
Just research. But I'll tell you, like, we didn't want to be, but I'm like, oh, you're in North Carolina. People hear, oh, you're in North Carolina. Oh, you're certainly in Raleigh or Charlotte, right? You know, because those are the two hot, sexy markets, right? No, I'm not buying in Raleigh and Charlotte. I mean, unless it's like an off the market thing that makes so much sense, I'd be silly to pass it up. I'm probably not going to buy in those markets because they're overbought, right? And so I don't buy in top tier markets or in markets that are a number one. There's a different philosophy. I respect the people that buy in those markets, and I've gotten their philosophy on it, and that is that cap rates are much lower, and so rising tide raises all boats. So if I go and raise rents $50 in a super, super low cap rate market, I've increased the value in that property a lot more than it would be if I had raised my rents $50 in a higher cap rate market, right? So that's an interesting philosophy, but I still don't want the competition. I still think there's a propensity to overpay, even in Raleigh, Charlotte, whatever. So we buy in what's called secondary and tertiary markets. So in North Carolina, that's Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point. And also a little market called Fayetteville, Wilmington. Those are all markets that we shop, and we own 198 units in Fayetteville as well. So that's why Winston-Salem in North Carolina. It's also one of the fastest growing cities in the market, aside from Raleigh and Charlotte. And the rents there are going up because Raleigh and Charlotte rents are already bumped. Winston-Salem and the other parts of North Carolina are catching up quickly. Right.
So they're all kind of within relative driving distance, and they're like a lot of college towns.
Like
right?
an hour and a half. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're within an hour and a half of each other. Winston-Salem is the home of Wake Forest University.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walk me through, just for the listeners who may or may not know about this. And Matt, Johnson, I'm talking to you on this. When we talk about cap rates, why would you want to buy in a higher cap versus a lower cap? Just because a lot of folks they're so interested in this stuff, they just don't know where to turn to learn about it.
He said Matt Johnson.
No, I was making fun of him. I'm putting the question to you.
Oh, okay. Because he's making fun of him. Like,
he was using the question to mock me.
I'm sitting here like, I'd love to answer that question, but that's okay.
You absolutely should answer that question.
I'm like, hey man, listen, that's All right, thank you. I'm glad to hop in on that. So, a lower cap, there are different philosophies, right? Nobody's wrong. It's just that it works for different people. It's whether or not you want to buy for cash flow or appreciation. Okay. Right. There are two different things you can invest for. You can actually invest for three things: tax shelter, cash flow, or appreciation. Right. I like to do a little bit of all three of them. Right. Because if you want to buy for appreciation, or for cash flow, we should all be buying properties that are way undervalued in downtown Detroit, but you might, right. But there's maybe security of investment there. Right. So maybe a little bit of blend.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Right. So, but I can buy in Detroit, I can buy a single family home for 20 grand and rent it out for $800, $900, $1,000. That's phenomenal cash flow. I mean, you might have to collect your rent with a sidearm, but at the end of the day,
no, Matt, I'm sorry. You need 2 dogs and 2 guns to get your $100. Yes.
I'm here in Trenton. I have buddies that have walked multifamily they were going to buy with dogs. Like they were like, just in case, you never know. Right. So anyway, yeah. But I digress. The appreciation market is low cap rate, right? That is your Raleighs, your Charlottes, the entire state of Texas. Those are markets where the cap rates are low. But what a cap rate really is people's view of that market from a risk perspective, right? It is a risk tolerance, saying like, I'm willing to pay X amount of dollars to achieve X amount of NOI, and I'll pay more for the same NOI because I view that market to be more stable. So I'll do a 4% capitalization rate over a 6 cap because I think that Raleigh is more of a stable market than Winston-Salem is, right? So
you're gambling, right?
Are we all?
Yeah, and so it's like going to the casino and saying, okay, I'm going to go and play the penny slots where I know I'm going to get some free beer. and I might make a couple of bucks back, or I can go to the big baller table and I'm going to put a grand down in one hand and put everything on black and see where it goes.
In some ways, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm very
totally
much
summed it up
10,000 foot
perfectly.
on this.
Yeah. But to bring it into real estate terms, what you're hoping on is that things stay the way they are, right?
Mhm.
A appreciation investor is hoping that the roulette wheel keeps on spinning and that things keep on going the way they are, because if they do, then Raleigh continues to be a great, hot, sexy market, and I can buy a property at 100 unit, right? At a 4% capitalization rate. Okay. So that means that my purchase price is $10 million and 4% of that is $400,000. That's my NOI, my net operating income. Okay. That is rent minus expenses. You guys with me so far?
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Copy.
So I go in and I roll my sleeves up and I say, all right, I'm going to go increase rents by $60 because I'm going to go put better handles on the counter on the cabinets, and I'm going to put a better gym in and put like a dog fluffing station over here or something like that, or whatever you got to do to make an A-class property an A+, whatever it is you're going to do, you do. And then that gets you another $60 a door on a 100-unit apartment building. That is, let's see, $6,000 a month times 12. So that's $72,000 a year. I just increased the rent. Okay.
Dang.
So my $400,000 NOI went to $472,000. Right. Now, handy dandy calculator, Matt just got it. Okay. So I take that 72 grand, right, and I divide it by that 4% capitalization rate. I just made that property worth another $1.8 million, right? Wow. By getting rents up $60. Okay. Now I made it worth that. Now what I can do is what the fast money these days do. There's a lot of fast money out there that right now, Greg, there's fast money everywhere. So what the fast money is going to do is they're going to try and flip it. They're going to go, oh, got my rents up. I mean, how long do you think it would take you to put a dog fluffing station in and to change the countertops on the cabinets, right? Year and a half, right? So 1.8 million in a year and a half is pretty good money. So a lot of the quick money is out like playing musical chairs, hoping that the property that the market doesn't change too much and the cap rates stay at 4%, right? Yeah. To give you one last item of context here, I do that same project on a 6% capitalization market, right? That, higher cap rate markets that's perceived to be, higher cap rate, right? Mm-hmm. Then what I've done to the value there is I've increased the value by 1.2 million. So I lost $600,000 by not buying in a low cap market. That is appreciation. It's called forced appreciation in real estate. That is why people buy in hot, sexy markets, and why you see people chasing deals in Austin, Texas, or whatever. All of this, guys, is not what I do.
I'm speaking to what I don't do, but do it.
So what I don't do. We buy for cash flow, right?
Right.
So
you're in the long-term game.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a dividend guy, right?
So I'm curious. I want to get in your head real quick. I want you to define something for me.
What's that?
So you said something interesting to me, and I think I want to break this down. You said the difference between a 4 and a 6 cap, right? And you said the word stabilization, right? So the stability in that market. So what I'm curious, when you say stability in a market, are we talking about overall values of the unit? Are we talking about vacancy rates? Are we talking about rental stability? Are we talking about all three of those and some other things I'm missing? What are we talking about?
All of it. So you're talking about market stability and building stability, right? So market stability is a lot of things you just said. So rent, like rent fluctuations, how solid are rents, diversity of jobs. My biggest thing, Gene, when I go into a market, that's the first thing I look at is where are the employers, because if we have I'm a what if guy, right? What if there's a market recession? The guy on the 4% capitalization rate hopes the carousel keeps turning. I'm over here like, what if it doesn't, right? Yeah. So again, because I buy long term. So I want to know who the employers are. And again, Winston-Salem, it's Amazon's got a couple of facilities. Wake Forest University employs a ton of blue collar, and we're blue collar landlords. So that's what we invest in. So I want to know where the blue collar jobs are. Transportation, food, there's 3 hospitals there. Those kinds of things, right? That's all your blue collar jobs. And there's still a lot of manufacturing in North Carolina left, right? So that's the biggest stability factor I look at. And then what also does it there is crime, of course. for market stability. And then there's building stability. You just said vacancy rate, those kinds of things. What the rents in the property are compared to rents in the market are. So like how much of an ugly duckling are we talking about here? Those are all stability factors we consider.
All of it. Good. Thank you.
Got it.
But
So
when it comes to crime, I mean, if we're going to look at crime, we need to keep Matt Johnson out of the neighborhoods. I mean, his kids, they just
problem.
go through floors like you wouldn't believe.
He
I
looks
mean,
it.
and they rob,
he looks like he brings shenanigans alongside him. Like it's like a whole like box of
Yes.
shenanigans that drive behind him when he comes.
Oh, he
in, right?
does.
Looks like
I want to
mean-
tell you about my win today. Anytime I'm one of 4 boxes on something and we go down the crime route and I'm not the guy they point at, that's a win. That's a win in your boy's book.
You're not the
Mister-
Philly guy. Don't talk to me about crime,
exactly.
please. So let's talk about crime for a second, because that's something that we're not afraid of, Gene. And that's like maybe that's because I got started landlording in Trenton, New Jersey. That like I've been. I mean, if we really want to go down the rabbit hole, we could talk Trenton crime stories, and that like.
Oh, look.
that I've
All right,
dealt
we're going
with.
to stop
All the
recording.
gray hair I got are all from Trenton landlording crime stories, right?
I
We're
believe
starting
it.
a new podcast, Matt. It's going to be Trenton Landlord, crime
Crime
stories.
stories.
I was just
Hey,
calling, you
there's
can't make this
there's
shit up,
something.
right?
Yeah, true crime and real estate investor.
True
like
crime
the-
and real estate investing.
Exactly.
That'd be great.
Dude, I
Oh my
carry this little monster
jeez.
with me
Of course you
everywhere I go, because in San Francisco, like you're gonna get mugged almost any time you're outside.
It's like if you rip the talon off an eagle and put it in
Oh,
your, you
dude,
know.
and you can open a beer with it. That's the best
There you
part.
go. There you go.
I'll bet
All right, let's switch
90%
gears.
of the time, that's what you do with that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
100% of the time.
No, he's
100%.
taking the beer. He uses it to pierce
Right,
the
and I could
underside.
shank someone that tries to take the beer from me, just in case.
Exactly.
I could. Right.
So I shank you with my knife, and then I open my beer with my knife that I shanked you with.
yeah. So
Simple.
should we
Okay,
talk
you
cash
guys
flow
live
now?
in a-
I talked
yeah.
about appreciation. We could go cash flow. Or we could change the subject. talk
Let's
crime,
change the
whatever
subject
you
a little
want.
bit. I'm curious what you're keeping your eyes on. So you're, if I was in your game, we'd have a similar mentality. I tend to bet on the things that don't change. Like my entire podcast production business is built on the premise that stuff mostly will not change for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So I'm definitely more of like a buy and hold type of mentality. I want to look at, like I'm always thinking about what things are going to change versus what things stay the same. And I want to bet on the stuff that stays the same, right? So what are some of the things that you're looking at that are threats, opportunities, stuff on the horizon, stuff that you're taking into account for your own business right now?
So yeah, SWOT analysis, right? So we're more cash flow, so we buy higher cap rates to where like the property's priced a little bit higher, and considering where debt is these days and things like that, we can make a reasonable cash flow on it. So with regards to where I'm thinking things are going, what we're looking at is, I can't assume that things are going to continue to happen that go the way they have. I mean, like North Carolina rent inflations, or Winston-Salem, where we are, rent inflations are something like 14% this year, right?
Oh my God.
My
If I
gosh.
banked on that, like that's just been, like you're just lucky being in the right place, right time kind of thing.
Yeah.
We don't bank on much of what's happening now to continue. Now it could, and if it does, this is a blessing. Great, God bless. Like, happy to have that. But what we're looking at for the future are just conservative growth. Even though I don't like, if we were just sitting down over a beer guessing what was going to happen, I probably would guess that inflation and increases in wages, increases in the cost of goods, and increases of all these things are going to continue to happen.
Mhm.
I don't want to bet on that. I'm going to continue to get in and just buy properties that make sense today. And as long as they do, and if inflation continues to happen, then we'll keep riding the wave up. So we don't bake any of our economic theory into our underwriting. We just bake in, it's got to make sense now. And if it makes sense now, then, then it'll continue to, like, even just on conservative inflation rates, it'll make more sense each day.
Got it. So you're looking at a baseline.
Yes.
But you're not doing like sort of like, you're not betting economically. You're not saying like, hey, I believe certain things about the economy, therefore I'm good. This deal only makes sense if I believe X, Y, and Z is going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. You're kind of looking at it going like, this is the baseline where even if everything just kind of not if shit hits the fan, but basically if like relatively worst case scenario, we're still good.
Yeah. Well, if I really, wanted to just bet on economic theory, then I would just I would just buy anything my hands could touch. And even if it didn't make money today from a cash flow perspective, the theory is that a gallon of milk is going to cost a lot more tomorrow than it does today. And if that's the case, then then whatever I buy,
Right.
$1 million condo going to be worth 1.3 million in a year, right? Maybe that's
Yep.
true, but I've also seen that carousel go the other way. Because I was around in 2007, 2008 when my buddies were buying properties that were negative cash flowing for appreciation. Like
Yeah.
they were, I had friends that were doing the condo flips that were buying, putting condos under contract in Miami and then selling that contract and making 40 grand a month. Right. Like, selling things and just
Just
selling up on
based
the
on
rising
crazy
tide.
appreciation. Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, all things have to shift. Right. So I don't, I think it will, but I'm not going to bet mine or my investors' money on that. So what we do is we just want to get into things that cash flow and just get into hard assets right now. And we think that's the best protection because I remember in 2007, 2008, when the carousel absolutely stopped,
Mm.
the one thing that kept going, and I had some fix and flips going at the time that I got hurt on and stuff, but the one thing that kept going was rents. And rents kept going, expenses stayed around the same, around the place that they were. Mortgage rates stayed the way they were, and things like that. And so the things that I had that cash flowed before the crash kept cash flowing during and after the crash. So
Interesting.
we are investing on if I can find cash flow today, I will buy it. But we will not buy things that I think are going to do better tomorrow if they don't cash flow today. Like if it's got a cash flow day one, even if it's a little teeny bit of cash flow, I'll take it. Just it's got to cover expenses because I think that that's going to ride up, but I won't buy in the negative, hoping it'll go positive one day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when you start getting into bubble economics and
That's
stuff
free
like that.
gambling right there. A
Yeah,
lot of people
yeah,
doing
exactly.
that. Though. There's a lot
Are
of that
they?
happening now, but that's not me.
That's so not a good sign. It's
Yeah,
so
man.
not. I mean, I get it from their perspective because they're betting. Essentially, they're just betting on inflation continuing to go up, which
Sure.
is
It's a
true.
good bet.
It's
It's
a
a
good
good bet.
it's a good bet. Yeah. I mean, something like what is it? Something like half of the money in circulation has been printed over the last 10 years. It's some absurd number like
Yeah.
that. So we
Yeah.
could easily see massive inflation.
Sure.
The only difference, like it's hard to know like what will stop it, what will send it back the other direction. But anyway, so they're essentially betting on inflation. You're
Rising rates
not.
will.
Yeah.
Them increasing that's here's the problem, right?
Okay.
And Matt, you're in mortgages, right?
No, I mean I'm in real estate and podcast production.
Okay.
Yeah.
No mortgage guy. No mortgage. Okay,
Gene's
but I
the
know
no, we don't have a
of
mortgage guy on the show.
a lot of your people listening, maybe you're concerned about what we think about mortgage rates. I mean, for me, I believe mortgage rates are going to stay lowish. Maybe the Fed will bump like things a little bit, like maybe a half a point at the most.
Yeah.
But they know they can't, right?
Yep.
They know they can't because the pickle our government's gotten themselves into by printing all this money. If they start raising rates, it will absolutely sink our government can't afford its debt service anymore, right? So rates I think are going to stay low, and the economists that I talk to, like, what are we going to do with all this money we just printed and with this debt and everything like that? And he said we're going to the folks I talk to tell me they believe we're going to inflate our way out of it.
Yeah.
I
I know. I figured that's what they believe.
That's what they believe because it's like, soon $20 trillion will be that much money. If a gallon of milk costs $15,
Yeah.
then hey, that's
I
not
mean,
that bad.
cutting Social Security by 1% is political suicide, but you can inflate it away by 50% and nobody will blink an eye.
But they're not going to blink an eye. You can't cut Social Security, but all of a sudden a gallon of gas goes to $10. And a living piece of real estate goes to $500,000, and living wage and what it takes to live in this country goes to $25 an hour, right?
Yeah.
So they're okay with all that, But
Yeah.
but that's what the folks that are way smarter than me think is going to happen. And that means that rates stay down while we see inflation. So as a landlord, that's really good. As a realtor, that's probably good too,
Well, yeah, except everything it takes a while for it to catch up. I mean, real estate is one of the
Right.
very few industries where it's percentage based. So you don't have to. You're not an electrician that has to wait for your $50 labor to go up to $75 an hour. Like you're an agent, so you just make like whatever happens in the market, you instantly make a commission off of it. But at some point, people can start going, that's a little like you're making 50 grand off my 75 grand off my transaction. How about we bump your share down to 4%? Like some point, the absolute numbers start looking a little ridiculous, and it's
Yes,
going
it does.
to pressure down the commission. So anyway,
Sure.
what I'm curious about is the real elephant in the room that could throw all of this calculation off and could throw every government economist for a total loop is blockchain and crypto. So I'm curious just what you're keeping an eye on and if you're seeing anything make some interesting inroads into your world.
So I'm not in crypto right now.
Really?
But yeah, I know, right? You would think. No,
I'm
I'm all real
shocked.
estate. Yeah, I'm all real estate stuff. I've thought about it. I've flirted with it. I have like FOMO. Like I still like check Bitcoin price. I'm like, son of a bitch, man. You know, I'm not in this thing right now. And so I still think about it and I still look at it and I still, I've thought about poking with it or whatever. But and if I did do it, it would only be as a hedge. Like I wouldn't put any more than say maybe 5% of my net worth into it, right?
Yeah.
But what I do think is the whole concept of alternative currencies and alternative technology to control currencies such as blockchain is changing. It's going to change everything, and there's a lot of things that are about to change. I mean, everything from self-driving cars to self-driving tractor trailers to blockchain to we live in a world that's about to get really, really fast and really, really interesting and really, really cool, I think. If we don't all go to hell in a handbasket before that, right? So I think the world's going to become amazing in 5 years if we can make it that long.
if we don't burn everything down first, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh,
If the
my God.
handbasket doesn't make it to hell first, right? So I think I believe like I'm an optimist, so I believe we'll climb out of the handbasket just in time. So,
Do you really?
yeah. But blockchain, we were talking blockchain on in like the pre-roll and that. So let's chat about it. What do you guys think?
Greg, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Blockchain. I mean, I think it's definitely coming down the pipeline, without a doubt. Matt, you and I interviewed a gentleman a couple of years ago now at this point, and he sold the first blockchain escrow company. And
Oh, that's right. Todd Holland. That's right.
the guy whose earpods went out in the middle of our interview.
That's right.
Very nice guy, but I'll tell you one thing. I see it coming, and I'm talking to a lot of people when I'm out walking around and just interviewing with other folks, and people are getting more and more open to the whole blockchain idea, because if you can take your crypto wallet and have a family or friend or someone else who can put money into it, and then you can deposit it into escrow and close in 1 day with zero way for anyone to back out of it, you just change the world. I mean, when it comes to real estate, I mean, it's going to get fucking crazy pants on a slow Tuesday, because there's no more, seller remorse, buyer remorse, no issues with inspections. Dude, you're locked in. Game over. Show done.
Now,
And if you can secure the capital and you can secure the deal, now you have something that people don't have the ability to offer right now. So if I go to Gene, I say, Gene, when you list with me, we're going to do it through crypto and we're going to do blockchain. We can get your home sold in 1 day. Now, the script is right now, hey, I have a 28-day guarantee. If I can't get it sold in 28 days, it's fine. But I could come to say to you, hey, Gene, where do you want to go? You want to go to Miami? Cool. I can get you sold tomorrow. Would you be interested in talking? It's a huge conversation changer, because all of a sudden cash is in hand, deals in the properties in the other person's possession. I'm out. So yeah, I think that's huge. There's a lot of conversation about it.
Yeah,
scares the crap out of me.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, it's because what's great about real estate is that it's illiquid, right? And I think that real estate is unlike, like we could go and buy and sell Microsoft stock 15 times today, like buy, sell, right? You like literally minute trade it, right? So what's great about real estate is that it takes like 30, 60, 90 days sometimes. Like some of the apartment buildings we buy take 90 days plus to close, right? And that makes it somewhat illiquid with regards to the pricing. And that means I can value it very, very readily. I can say, okay, my home is worth $340,000 because the guy next door's home sold for this and whatever, right? Now, yes, there's technology with blockchain and all those kinds of things. But if we're talking about using blockchain to expedite the title process to the point where like I can run back title, pull in title, insurance, maybe environmental, whatever else you want to pull in to make it a clean, sound, closable transaction, right? That scares me, because it makes real estate at a higher velocity than I think that we've ever seen it. And I think that going all the way this, right? One of the reasons why I think banks are so ready to lend money on real estate, that they're willing to go 80%, right? they won't give you 80% on Microsoft stock. And the reason for that is because it's liquid, is because Microsoft stock can change. It's erratic on pricing. And that's because it's very easy to trade it. You can trade stock on emotion, right? The stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, I think went down to 13,000 during COVID, or maybe it was 18,000, something like that in a day, right? Real estate could do the same thing, and every bank would be screwed if real estate was able to get cut in half nationally in a day's time. So the reason why I don't like this is because it takes away one of the things that makes real estate great, is the bankability of it. No bank is going to be okay being involved in something that can go up, down, left, right on a quick basis. And if you can trade real estate in a day, you are making the possibility of real estate, like elasticity of price, you're making it way, way up and down, left and right. Things could trade hundreds of thousands more in a day, based on emotions. Fight me.
It's interesting. Well, I think here's the difference. I think you're right about that, but at the fundamental difference is that buying Microsoft stock, you're buying something that is an abstract. At the end of the day, Microsoft is a company that maybe it owns some buildings, but Microsoft is a concept. It's a set of systems and people that produce a product that's basically just zeros and ones that people buy. And so a stock is way more based on a perception of value, a perceived growth of a company, which is just a set of people and systems like that. It's all abstract. It's the creation of the minds of human beings. No matter how fast you can trade a house, it's still a house. It's a physical piece of property, a piece of the earth, and a structure that's built on it. So I totally get what you're saying, but I don't know that the banks will be totally screwed. I think maybe the Federal Reserve requirements, like all that stuff, would have to adjust to accommodate for the fact that real estate all of a sudden can be traded quickly. But the fundamental store of value, the physical structure on the land, is different than the underlying stock of a company, which can go to zero overnight as soon as the company goes bankrupt or as soon as the public's confidence fails.
You still get the sticks and bricks. But I think that's not just why banks like real estate, is because it's a physical asset, right? It is. And that's a great point. I'll give you that. But I think another reason why banks like real estate, why they're willing to lend so much on it, is because it is fairly certain what it's going to be worth. Their collateral of investment is, yes, it's a physical piece of property, but they're pretty sure that if they give you a loan on a property, it's worth $100,000, it'd be worth around $100,000 tomorrow, and around $100,000 a year from now, maybe a little bit less, but
that loan to value ratio is going down. That would make sense, right?
Correct. But it goes back to 50%. Affordability.
Yeah.
Maybe they clip LTV. And if they do, right, what do people buy on? People don't buy on purchase price. People buy on monthly payment. I'm talking about the homeowners, not the people, not investors, whatever. And even that's a factor for me too, as an investor, right? But as a homeowner, they're not buying on a property being worth $1 million. They're buying based on, well, my monthly payment will be $3,200 and that's what I can afford, So if they're being required to bring more cash to the table because the banks start pulling back and say, well, this thing you guys created is a little more erratic. And so to hedge our bets, we're not going to drop to 50% LTV. And you guys can close your real estate in a week or a day or whatever it is. And we'll drop our loans back to 50%.
Well, it'll definitely, it might cause a whole price correction. We might come crashing down to what prices should have been all along, right? The bubble, it might pop the bubble, right?
It'll pop it for real. Because if you want to look at the last 20-year run up as propped up on bank loans, right? I mean, like let's call it that. Yeah. That people are just basing this thing based on what they can afford, not based on what they really ought to buy. Because if you're winding the clock all the way back, people used to not get mortgages to buy real estate. You used to just save up or get a loan from your parents or whatever. And you would buy, like a house or, and you would own it forever. But we've gotten into a financed economy. And so maybe it course corrects that. But you're talking about a big house of cards, man.
That is a big house of cards. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and we don't reward savers, so it's not like there's a whole bunch of money, like private money out there to go like, oh, I'll just take out a second mortgage from Aunt Sally and Uncle Ron, and they'll give me the difference to get up to like my, the down payment I want to put down. There's just nobody has any savings anymore. So unless you can start borrowing off of your, it'd be interesting to see what other technological things come across at the same time. So maybe people start realizing like, hey, I should probably move my stuff out of a 401k and put it into crypto in my wallet instead of in a 401k. Like that, if that kind of stuff starts to happen, you can take loans off of your crypto who knows? Like the sky, like it could just, there's so many interesting things that could come about.
Yeah. I see the
Anyway.
benefits of it. Don't get me wrong. But I also see that messing around with one of the fundamentals of what makes real estate great, which is the ability to leverage it. If we start poking that with a stick, then you really start changing something we've all come to rely on. You know,
Right, yeah.
nobody's running around plunking down millions of dollars for houses in cash. Maybe like 0.5% of the population is, right? But by far and away, the people that buy real estate are relying on debt leverage to do it. You know, and if you start dropping that down, it really starts like, geez, you know, that this thing's really not moving the way that it used to, you know?
Yeah.
So
Interesting. All right. So what else is on your radar? What else you got?
what else you got, man? Wow, I'm exhausted. That was an interesting day. It makes me, you know, I think about a lot of things. I think about like, you know, where we go from working from home, like two things. Working from home and self-driving cars. Where do you guys think that takes us 5 years from now? What's your crystal ball say on those two things? Because I have theories on that. You know, let's talk about the world the world's going. We talked about where we think blockchain might take real estate. Where do you guys think self-driving cars and more people working from home takes the world?
All right. So here's something.
Give me what you think.
So commercial real estate will be bad for a while until people figure out that they can replace the subway and the dry cleaners with ketamine clinics and pot stores, and that'll be the next revolution in commercial real estate. Will be alternative health clinics, micro schools, tutoring clinics,
safe places,
safe spaces,
safe spaces,
padded rooms for people that are offended. Yeah, like I can see that. I can see it radically changing commercial real estate. I mean, self-driving cars, honestly, that could be one of the biggest revolutions that hits us. Like driving a car that's cool could literally become the 21st century version of having a horse.
Yes.
Right. Because it's like, why would you buy a car that just looks cool? Why wouldn't you just get in the nondescript beige Prius that picks you up and takes you everywhere? And like, who cares? Like, it could be a total, like, it's been a status symbol for 100 years, longer than that. It could all of a sudden not be a status symbol, or it's a status symbol for only the ultra elite that keep collector cars on their grounds to drive on their private roads, and the rest of them you can't, like, you may not be able to drive your car on a road anymore. I could see it going that way for sure.
Yeah. I think that we're going towards a breakthrough around human productivity. You know, I think we're approaching breakthroughs on longevity, like meaning like I think that there's a lot of like technological breakthroughs. There's a guy named David Sinclair that wrote a book called Longevity that's phenomenal about breakthroughs that we're having and hacking what makes us age as humans, right? That's one thing. And then I think we're also looking at breakthroughs in human productivity, where to the point of working, unless you're in a straight service industry, you're having to, you know, pick up something to go from A to B physically with your own two hands or whatever. We're getting towards a point where the whole concept of 4-hour work week, I think years from now, is going to be so archaic. Like, why would we do that when I could work from home, get what I want to get done from home, or if I got to go somewhere physically, I'd get into a self-driving car and be productive in the car, or take a nap, or read a book, or learn to speak Spanish in the car, whatever it is, and not take my time to physically drive the vehicle. If you look at what we do, a lot of what we do as humans, it is so inefficient in a lot of different ways. And I think that we're going to see a lot of operational efficiencies show up in human life, in American life anyway. And I think that that's going to cause some major breakthroughs and open up possibilities for people. And as an investor, I'm like, okay, well, how do I monetize that? How, as a landlord, do I start buying or creating the already built-in home office, you know, for the 1-bedroom
that's going to be
person,
a big deal.
the 2-bedroom person. Yeah. You know, the den that was just a den for a guest or for your home, for your kid to sleep in. That second bedroom might become a real legit, no, that's my office. That's my commute to work is now 5 steps. And more Americans might start doing that. So how do we stay ahead of the puck that way?
It's very true.
Yeah.
I like that. Gene, what do you got?
Yeah, no, I think he's right about that. That's just, I have a good friend that's in the cloud computing space where they basically handle, data centers and things, and they're moving everything to the desktop at home. Yep. So like, because there's going to be such a shift in all these workers going, I don't need people in the office anymore. I can save all this money in my office space. Let's shut that spot down, send everybody home. We know they can be efficient there. And I just think there's going to be an evolution. Well, this guy is doing a podcast called The Evolution of Work, like where we're going, right?
There you go.
I think to me, I'm a tech guy too, so I'm an IT guy. So when I think about stuff, that's when I think about all the tools we have to make it so much easier now. Like, I think we were heading towards that space anyway, but COVID just expedited it, right? Like, and the other part of it too that I think is interesting is I wonder, there's this issue with finding help and people working and all that stuff. And I had a friend say to me, "What do you think it's possible that some of these companies were forced to cut costs and squeeze their manpower, so they laid a lot of people off?" And then realized that they were making more money at that level by squeezing their current employees and getting the most out of them. And they're not going to hire those other people back. So like, what happens if these companies go, look, we just downsized 4 of our office buildings. We cut 40% of our staff and we're more profitable than ever. So Matt Johnson, shut your trap and work 11 hours instead of 9. You're at home anyway, right? Fix it and make sure my P&L looks good.
Well,
so,
that's when we get like employees working 2 jobs for 2 different remote employers because they figure out how to get the stuff done, so that like workers will figure out a way to fight back against that stuff. But yeah, I can absolutely agree that we're going to have companies that never ever staff back up to the levels, never take on the level of infrastructure they had before, ever.
What's like a lot of I've traveled a lot. I mean, believe it or not, I didn't just hole up during COVID. I actually traveled a lot during COVID, our apartment buildings, and did some fun travel with my family and, walked around SeaWorld with a mask on outside. I'm like, okay, great. Hey,
sorry about that. San Diego went a little insane.
Yeah. No, we were in SeaWorld, Orlando.
Oh, Florida. Okay, got it.
Yeah, Orlando, walking around with masks on outdoors. And I'm like, all right, man, what are we going to do? But hey, my point is that I've traveled a lot and I've stayed in a lot of hotels, and hotels, have staffing issues, right? But they're also pushing back on COVID to Gene's point about saying, okay, we just had to lay off all the staff, cleaning crew, whatever. And now we're like, oh, well, we're not going. When's the last time you guys stayed in a hotel where they cleaned your room every day? They don't do that anymore, right? Yeah, they don't do that anymore. Now they're like, oh, we're not going to clean your room because of COVID. We're totally going to blame it on COVID now.
Yeah.
But it's really because we want to save that bottom line. And we don't want to hire. You could hire the cleaning staff back now, pay another $3 an hour. They'll be there, right?
Matt, what's great about that? I love how they guilt you into that, right? They don't have the staff, but they go, by you not cleaning your room every day, we saved 13 trees. Have you seen those things? Like,
right.
Yeah.
They've been doing that. They're like, oh, you could just hang your towel back up. And I'm like, F you, man. I'm not hanging my towel back. Give me a new goddamn towel for $200 a night. You're going to give me a new towel, new washcloth.
Yeah, do my bed. That's right.
My wife, she'll take towels she didn't use and throw them on the floor. Like, clean my damn towels, Mabel, for what I paid. But it's funny because it's not just because of saving the planet now. It's also about COVID. Like, well, hey, because of the Rona, we're not going to clean your room and all that because we can't get people because of coronavirus, because of your safety, because we don't want this person coming in your room breathing on your stuff, right? Because they'd have to hold their breath and they can't hold it for that long, so we don't do that. So
they'd have to hold their breath.
Yeah, right. We can't do either. They can't clean your room and hold their breath.
It's like I like what Adam Carolla said. He's like, stop putting my safety first. I'm like, I'll worry about that. You just get me my damn latte. I got this.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Dude, we just recently did a team dinner at one of these hibachi places. And I find some of these, we should be normalized to it now with like staff shortages and customer service taking a dump. But we walk in this place, it was like 5:30 and we're like, we'll all meet at the bar. Dinner's at 6:30. And they were like, we're sorry, we don't have a bartender. And we were like, what? They're like, yeah, we
myself. I'll just take care of myself.
That's what I said. I said, I'll go back, dude. All I want is a beer. And they actually called somebody in and they were like, if you give us 35 minutes, they'll be here. I'm like, dude, you don't have a bartender at 5 o'clock on a Thursday? That's crazy. Like,
dude, that's nuts. Yeah.
That's insane.
But I really, I don't buy, I think it's 2 things. I think that we're going to have to start paying people more money to do what they did. And some companies are going to have to accept that wages are going to go up. And that's going to be the biggest inflation driver we're going to see is cost of labor, right? Because some people are going to wait to get off their couch and they're going to keep collecting unemployment until we pay them, whatever they maybe really
enough to get off their couch.
Yeah. And you know what? Not for nothing. Maybe you said COVID exacerbated a lot of things and it made a lot of things happen faster than they were going to. Maybe we were underpaying people to begin with. you
Right.
know? And maybe it made people realize, well, fuck that job sucked anyway. And
Yep.
I'm not going to do it for $13 an hour. I'll, make $9 an hour on my couch versus 13 for a job I hate, and that's, so maybe we got to pay people more money. And also companies are being cheap and saying like, screw it. You know what? Maybe Gene's not going to walk in the door. Maybe I don't need a bartender on a Thursday night,
Yeah, I'll roll the dice, right? I'll roll the
Right.
dice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and then if Gene shows up, I got to blame the Rona. Oh, hey,
Yeah.
Corona, don't have a bartender. Sorry.
But you know what I find the most interesting part about this whole thing, I think, is that, like you said, maybe we weren't paying people enough.
Yes.
People were willing to eat shit because they thought forever that's what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
And then this whole virus came along, and we were inside long enough where people started to reevaluate their happiness and went, that place sucks, dude. I'd find a $14 job anywhere. I'm not going back and dealing with that asshole. Like, you know what I mean? I'll collect a little bit less than what I'm making for 8 months until I figure it out. And I think, because even me in my life, I made so many changes based off of, I'm going, how do I know this isn't going to happen again, dude? I got to live for now. I'm not worried about 8 years from now, right?
Well, that's what you're going to see. And I'm okay with that as an employer myself, about paying people a good living wage. And I think that, Amazon's now starting at $25 an hour in some markets. Wow. Burger King is starting at $15 to $20 an hour in some markets and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, if that's what it takes to get people back to work is throw some more money at them, and the cost of my Whopper with cheese needs to go up to $4 or whatever it is, then maybe that's what it is. And maybe that's where things
doesn't
go.
sound like we have much of a choice. So it seems like that's the direction it's going to go, whether we like it or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just funny because all the agitating for higher wages, they don't realize that it's all going to be a wash in the end. Like
right.
you produce what you produce.
It's like out the window, because we're going to have a reason to charge more for a gallon of milk.
Yeah.
And a feel for that, the only way you're going to get out of this whole thing is by owning assets, right?
Right.
Is by owning whatever it is, whatever your choice, whatever your asset vice is, Bitcoin, bars of gold, oil, whatever it is, real estate for me, as much real estate as I can get my hands on. Right. That's the way that you're going to ride inflation. But for a little while, the $25 an hour is going to go a little bit further, but then their landlord is going to realize, hey, wait a minute, you're making $25 an hour. What's 1/3 of your monthly wage? Okay, that's what you're going to, your rent's now going to be 1/3 of your living expense of your wage. That's what it is.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, yeah, well, think about that. As a landlord, when I've been landlording for 15 years, right? Mm-hmm. So I am not a scumbag landlord, but I can tell you that the rule of thumb in landlording is 1/3 of someone's earned income should be what you vet them on to make sure they make enough, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that conversation is going to get flipped around to say, again, that was like, okay, you can't afford to live here because you only make $1,000 a month and the rent, is $1,000 a month, right? So you probably shouldn't be living here, right? And that, so what we would do is say, okay, you make $3,000 a month. 1/3 of that is $1,000. You can afford to pay $1,000 a month, as long as you get good credit and you're not a drug dealer, whatever it is. You can live in my property. Very good. Okay. But landlords are going to start looking at this the other way to say, okay, you make $5,000 a month, and so I'm going to take 1/3 of that number, which is around, say, $1,500, right? $1,600. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was charging you $1,000, but now you're making $5,000 a month. You're going to pay me $1,700 now.
Right. Yeah. So just, it's going to
they're
catch
going to
us.
push rents to match up to be 1/3 of the average living wage. Right. Mm-hmm. Not because our landlord costs have gone up, but because you can,
right.
I'm not saying I'm doing it. I'm just don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying I come from Caesar.
But that's the economic reality. Because if you don't do it, and this is what people don't understand about economics, if you don't do it and there's an opportunity for it to be done, you'll get approached by a group of investors with that plan who will make you an offer you can't refuse, and then they'll do it. Right? Sure. Like that's just the way it works. It's like you can hold out your beach house for a long time, but the bottom line is there's people waiting, chomping at the bit to buy that from you with a really good offer because they know it's more valuable economically as a rental than it is for somebody to live on the beach.
We have a term. Here's what we do. And I'm not like, pounding my King Kong chest over here or whatever. But again, going back to transforming lives through real estate, right? I will not increase the tenant's rent unless I do a benefit for them, right?
Oh, really?
So if I increase, aside from like 3 to 4% for for just, market rate GDP increases or whatever, fine. But if we're doing a significant rent increase, like, $100, whatever, like, okay, excuse me, for $100 a month, we typically will do new appliances and new light fixtures. Right. Mm-hmm. And for a tenant, that's significant. Like new stainless steel appliances, maybe an ice maker if it's got a water line there, maybe a dishwasher, maybe a replacement, and then new LED light fixtures save the tenants money in their electric bill, right? That so for $100 a month investment from the tenant, I get $1,200 a year in revenue, right? New appliances and new light fixtures cost me around $2,000, right? So I'm getting $1,200 a month or $1,200 a year on a $2,000 investment. My ROI is like 60%. So that's a win for me and it's a win for them, right? But we try and do amenity-based upgrades for rent increases. So by that rationale, if Americans start earning more and landlords do the right thing, and also you got me, landlord, and scumbag Johnny down the street that wants to just increase their rent because not give them anything, I win because I just dropped in a new playground and new fixtures and granite countertops, whatever it is, to give them a better living condition, right? In exchange for those rent bumps that I'm doing. So
makes sense.
I'm okay with that. With it, I sleep at night knowing that I increased their rents, but at least I gave them something on top of that too.
Right. In theory, and in theory, everybody wins as long as they choose. And if they choose to stay, it's because they get enough of the benefit out of that to offset the little bit of extra rent that they pay, and everybody's happy. Yeah. All right, man. So we got to get a good plug in for your book and for the podcast so we can send people from our audience to check you out and stay up with you.
Awesome conversation. I want to come back at some point soon. You guys are awesome. My website's DeRosaGroup.com, and my book is Raising Private Capital. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on Bigger Pockets, and you can buy it on my website at DeRosaGroup.com. You can learn about investing with us. You can learn about learning from us if you want to become a landlord, become a multifamily expert. We can teach you how to do so, and all that is available at DeRosa, DeRosa Group.com.
Love it. That's awesome. And you sold a ton of copies of that book from what I hear behind the scenes.
A good bit, yeah. It's in the it's like
it's in the tens of thousands, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like a half of six figures,
Yeah, if you can do that on a major publisher like HarperCollins, they're happy. To publish on a smaller imprint and sell 50,000 business books. That is an incredible accomplishment. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for it, and that's the numbers I'm told by Bigger Pockets that we're doing. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But it's really made a difference. And what it does, Matt. A lot of people have come up to me and said, like, hey, I read your book, and I was able to buy a couple of rental properties, and because I bought those rental properties, I was able to help out these investors, and my mom invested with me, and whatever. So they help people in their network achieve financial independence, and then they quit their job because of this real estate investing venture they've been able to get into. And my book gave them at least some of the tools to attract people in their network onto investing with them. And that's the book's about, finding people with money in your own personal network that may want to invest with you to make passive income. So
love
it. It's been very fulfilling.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I like the motto, transforming lives through real estate, and you live it. Very cool.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Gene, how do people connect with you?
GeneVolpe.com. All my stuff is right there. Easy to connect, calendar, link. Go do it.
That's right. And you should do that because Gene is a marketing ninja. And if you create content, his team will slice and dice it into 1,000 pieces and put it all over the place, maximize your exposure. And then Greg, people should reach out and connect with you because they should, if they're in the residential game in real estate, let's look at how they can build passive income, get stock, all by joining up through EXP, and don't roll into an office full of downers, of people that aren't selling anything anyway and don't have good mindset. Why would you roll into an office anymore when there's not going to be offices anymore? There's no purpose in doing that. So why are you paying for an office? So if somebody wants to talk about what we're building with EXP and just getting into an environment like that where you can continue to grow and keep doing what you're doing as an agent, but also build passive income. I think there's like 7 or 8 different ways that you can make money within EXP. There's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't really get a lot of attention, some really interesting and unique things. So make sure to reach out to Greg and he can give you all the details. Greg, what's the best way to connect?
The number that haunts your dreams, that would be area code 925-915. 1978. Too bad Gene got that wrong on our last podcast, but it's okay. We forgive him. But yeah, it's a really easy way to get a hold of me. Let's have that conversation. And you guys are going to reach out to Matt, get a copy of his book. What is it? GetMicroFamous.com?
Yeah, getmicrofamous.com. Yes.
After he tells me about money up his number,
yeah,
he can get the URL.
Well, shut up. So yeah, getmicrofamous.com. We're not talking about anything personal. We're just talking about his book. And we want to make sure that you guys can reach out and get a copy of it. It actually really is a phenomenal book. I mean, he did such a good job. Gene is leaning over, scratching his bald head, just dying laughing as I do this closeout. But it is phenomenal. If you guys are looking to get into podcasting or anything along those lines, please reach out to Matt. His phone number is 402-615-7203.
That is a fake number. Go to getmicrofamous.com.
Somebody's getting blown up right
some
now.
poor person in Nebraska is getting texted by our audience. All right, guys. Shall we pick a color of the bow to wrap up around this episode?
Well, yeah. So we're gonna do the mats. So Johnson face.
Well, we got to do it in honor of all the Captain America stuff in the background.
I was just gonna say I want Super
Red, white, and
American
blue.
Man red.
Yes, come on, you gotta
Man.
Super American Man.
Yeah. Red, white, and blue, baby.
That's
Wrapping
right.
a red, white, and blue balloon in honor of Veterans Day yesterday. How about that?
All right, let's do that. That's actually a lot easier than Super American Man, whatever Gene was saying. All right, guys and gals, thank you so much for watching and listening to this podcast. We love you to pieces. We cannot do this show without you. So thank you for watching and listening. Go out there and give us a 5-star, not a 2-star review on anywhere that you guys are watching and listening to this show, so the algorithm will kick it up and show more people. Also, do a hashtag for anybody that you liked on the show, except for Matt Johnson. But you know what? We're going to keep going with it, and we will see you guys soon. The color on the bow on the show is going to be America. And until then, peace out, ninjas. We gone.